Okay, we are recording now and we are going to sing a couple of songs and then everybody can unmute and help me with the story tonight. We're going to start talking about what happened next. I see somebody waiting to come in, so I'm going to let them in real quick before we start singing. There we go. Looks like Ledger's coming in. All right, so Ledger just joined us. We're fixing to sing, so make sure you're muted right now, and then we will unmute. We're gonna sing My God Is So Big, and then we're gonna sing He's Got the Whole World in His Hands. That one's got some good motions too. So I'm gonna back up just a little bit so you can see me. Make sure your arms are ready to go. Oop, I got more people waiting in the waiting room. Let's let them in real quick. There they go. Jason and Sadie are coming in and Beckham's coming in. Here we go. So I'm gonna back up and you sing with me. Even though I can't hear you, I can see you doing the motions. My God is so big, so strong and so mighty. There's nothing my God cannot do. My God is so big, so strong and so mighty. There's nothing my God cannot do. The mountains are His, the valleys are His, the trees are His handiwork too. My God is so big, so strong and so mighty, there's nothing my God cannot do for you. Good job. I saw some motions in my little pictures. We're going to sing about God having the whole world in His hands because we've been talking about how God made the whole world. So get ready to do the motions on this one. He's got the whole world in His hands. 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 He's got the mommies and the daddies in His hands. He's got the mommies and the daddies in His hands. He's got the mommies and the daddies in His hands. He's got the whole world in His hands. He's got the brothers and the sisters in His hands. He's got the brothers and the sisters in His hands. He's got the brothers and the sisters in His hands. He's got the whole world in His hands. Now really quiet. He's got the little bitty babies in His hands. He's got the little bitty babies in His hands. He's got the little bitty babies in His hands. He's got the whole world in His hands. Now nice and loud. He's got everybody here in His hands. He's got everybody here in His hands. He's got everybody here in His hands. He's got the whole world in His hands. Very, very good. I could see lots of people participating in that. So if you want to unmute now, you can do that, and we're going to start our lesson. All right, remember, when we're unmuted, we need to make sure we talk one at a time and not all at the same time, because then it's just a whole bunch of noise. So if you know the answer to what I'm asking you, feel free to shout that answer out, but let's be quiet when we're not answering. Listen with your ears.
Miss
Okay?
Tanya,
Huh?
wasn't there something that you said last week? I can't remember, but I think it was like something bad or something.
Yeah, we're going to talk about something happens tonight in our lesson that's not a good thing. So you're right, Ender, you were paying attention. All right. Does anybody have rules at your house?
Yeah.
You have rules that you have to follow? Tell me a rule that's at your house.
Me and Nydia both have to unload the dishwasher.
You have to unload the dishwasher, so you have to help with some chores?
Mhm.
Okay, that's a good rule. What about somebody else? Does anybody else have a rule at your house?
Yes.
Yes.
Who's got a rule? Dakota, what's a rule at your house?
Yes.
You do have
Yes.
Okay, I see Heidi's got her hand up. Heidi, what's a rule at your house?
Try new food.
Huh?
Try new food.
Oh, to try new foods. Oh, that's a good rule. Sydney's got her hand up. Sydney, what's a rule at your house? To clean up?
Yes.
Okay, good. Now, I can't see everybody's picture, so if you have your hand up and I haven't called on you, you might just have to shout it out. I see Jason and Sadie now. They got their hands up. What's a rule at your house?
We have a snake.
What?
You don't know what our rules are? I know. Not. We have to clean out when we're supposed to.
Okay.
And you don't have to touch people's bodies.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right. So those rules that you guys have at your house, do you think mom and dad just make those rules up to be mean? To make you do things you don't really want to do? No, that's not why mom and dad make rules, is it? It's because they love you and they want you to be safe and healthy. And that's kind of what we're going to talk about tonight with God and Adam and Eve. So listen with your ears. Adam and Eve, after God made them, he gave them just one rule. And we're going to talk about that rule in just a minute. But first, we want to talk about where they live. The Bible tells us that God had planted a garden, and that is where he put Adam and Eve to live. Now, I can only imagine how beautiful this garden would have been. It would have had all kinds of trees and flowers, and the Bible tells us it had a river that went through it so they could get fresh water. It had everything that Adam and Eve needed. And God told them they could eat from any of the trees that were in that garden. Beautiful fruit,
Except one.
vegetables, except one. Somebody's getting a little ahead of me there. There were two very special trees in the middle of the garden. One of them was called the tree of life, and one of them was called the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. That's a big lot of words. But that's the tree that God said, do not eat from this tree, because if you do, you will surely die. So just one rule, right? That's not too hard. We can follow just one rule, right? We can eat from everything else in the garden, just not that one. Now, I think it's kind of interesting that God made us with choices. He didn't make us like robots where he controlled everything we did and where he made us do the things he wanted us to do. He gave us choices and free will, and we can choose whether to obey God or to not obey God. And that's really what we're talking about tonight is choices. And when we have rules, it helps us to make good choices. So one rule, one tree that they couldn't eat from. Well, unfortunately, there was somebody else in that garden. Does anybody else know who else is in that garden?
The snake. Garden.
The snake. And who was actually disguising himself as the snake? Do you know?
The devil.
The devil, that's right. And the devil does not like it when people are in a good relationship with God. Adam and Eve had a good relationship with God. That means they were friends with God. And God would come down, and the Bible says you could hear him walking through the garden. I'm not sure what that sounded like, but that's what it tells us. But the devil or Satan did not like that. So he disguised himself as a snake, and he was very crafty. And he slithered up to Eve, and apparently snakes could talk back then. He slithered up to Eve and he said, hey, Eve, did God really tell you that you couldn't eat from any of the trees in the garden? And Eve said, oh no, God said we could eat from any of the trees except just this one. But if we ate from it, we would surely die. And then the devil lied. That's what the devil is really good at. He is really good at telling lies. And that snake said to Eve, oh, you will not die. If you eat from that tree, you're just going to be smart like God. And God doesn't want you to be smart like him. And so that's why he told you not to eat from that tree. So Eve thought about that, and she looked at that tree, and she looked at that fruit on that tree, and it was really pretty. It looked like it would taste very good. She thought about that a little more, and she thought, maybe I'll just try it. And so she took a piece of fruit from that tree, and she took a bite out of it. Now, was that a good choice? No, that was not a good choice. And then you know what she did? She gave some to Adam, and she said, hey, Adam, this is good. And the serpent said, we're not going to die. We're just going to be smart. So let's just try. And so you know what Adam did? He made a bad choice too. He ate some of that fruit. And then the Bible tells us that immediately they knew they had done wrong. It says their eyes were open. Well, their eyes were actually already open because they could see things. But what it means is they realized that they had made a mistake. They had made a bad choice and they had disobeyed God. Now, do you know what it's called when we choose to disobey God? There's a word for that. Does anybody know what it is? No? Have you ever heard the word sin? We hear the grown-ups talk about sin sometimes, right? Well, that's what that word means. It means choosing to disobey God. And that's what Adam and Eve did. Well, you know, when you break the rules, sometimes there are consequences. I mean, sometimes things happen because you broke those rules. And some things happened to Adam and Eve. They were afraid and they hid. And the Bible tells us that they could hear God as he was walking through the garden, and they were afraid. And God was looking for them. And he said, Adam, where are you? And Adam said, well, I hid because I'm afraid. Well, immediately God knew. Of course, God already knew because God knows everything. He said, did you eat from that tree that I told you not to eat from? And do you know what Adam said? He said, Eve made me do it. He tried to pass the blame off. And then Eve said, the snake tricked me. But God knew that they made their choices. Even though they were tricked or that the devil lied about it, they still made the choice to disobey God. And so you know what happened then? They couldn't live in that garden anymore. God said they had to leave the garden. In fact, the Bible tells us that he put an angel with a sword, a flaming sword, at the entrance of the garden so they couldn't get back in. And God said because they had disobeyed, they were going to have to work really hard for their food. Instead of it just being easy where they could just go pick it off the tree, they were going to have to work really hard. But the worst thing that happened, is that they weren't in that good relationship with God anymore. Because that's what happens when we choose to disobey God, is we can't be close to him. But do you know what else happened, or what didn't happen? God did not stop loving them. Even though they made a bad choice and they disobeyed God, God still loved them. And he wanted to be back in a relationship with them. And we're going to learn about God's plan, because God had a plan all along to take care of this little problem. Now, what we're going to call this, when this happened, and we'll do this a lot. I'm going to put it on our bulletin board. See if any of you can see these letters well enough to read it. Can you see that? What does it say?
The big
The big disaster. The big disaster. What that means, a disaster is a very bad thing. And when Adam and Eve made a choice to disobey God, made that bad choice, it was a big disaster. And they couldn't fix it. Only God could fix it. Now, sometimes we talk about Adam and Eve and we talk about how they made a bad choice and we kind of blame them for things that aren't so good in our world anymore. But there's a Bible verse, which is our memory verse tonight and for the next week or so, that is from Romans chapter 3, verse 23. And what it says, it's really short, so I know you can learn it. What it says is, all have sinned and fall short of God's glory. Can you say that with me? All have sinned and fall short of God's glory. What that means is we all make bad choices sometimes. I make bad choices sometimes. You make bad choices sometimes. We all make bad choices. And God is really sad when we do that, but he still loves us and he still has a plan. And next week, we're going to start talking about God's plan to fix the big disaster. Okay, I want to talk to you a little bit about what's in your packet tonight for your activities, because you got fun things to do. Your worksheet looks like this, and
they have done
some
that.
boys and girls, and they can make a good choice or they can make a bad choice, and you get to help decide which thing is the good choice and which thing is the bad choice. And our snack tonight is all about choices. You should have a little bag of pretzels. And you should have some little containers that have things that you can choose if you want to dip your pretzel in it to eat it. Now, none of these are bad choices unless you're allergic to them. If you're allergic to milk, you don't want to use this one. I think if you were allergic to milk, I probably didn't even put it in your packet. If you're allergic to peanut butter, don't want to do this one. But I think the only person allergic to peanut butter, I didn't put that in his packet. So hopefully you're okay. So you got three little things.
I'm not allergic to peanut butter, but Lydia is.
Okay, well then Lydia does not need to eat any of this one. So this one is ranch dip, and it tastes kind of different, but you can choose to try it. If you don't like it, you don't have to eat it.
We've had that ranch dip.
Yep, and here's peanut butter, and in this one is going to be, I can't get it right side up. There you go. This one is going to be icing, which is like what goes on cakes. So that's going to be really sweet and yummy. So you can choose to try all of them or none of them and eat your bag of pretzels and enjoy your snack. And then the last thing tonight is your craft. And when you're done with it, it's going to look like this. Let me tell you what you do to make that. You should have some little pieces of paper that look like this. And you'll take your first green piece and you'll make it into a circle and put some tape on it.
That's getting some chocolate chips.
Then you're going to take the yellow pieces and you're going to make it go through that hole and come around and make another loop and you'll fasten it. Then you'll take the next green one and you'll go through the yellow hole, bring it around and fasten it. And you keep doing that until you've got a chain. And then you should have some pieces that look like triangles. The little one is your snake's tail, and the big one is his head. You'll fasten those onto your circles, like see right there on my my circle, I've got the tail fastened, and there's on this circle, I've got my head fastened. And then you should have a little tongue, because you know snakes like to stick their tongues out. And fasten that on there. And you should have some wiggly eyes. Mine are 2 different sizes. I think y'all's may be the same sizes. You'll put that on there. And that craft just makes us remember about that snake that was in the garden. It really was the devil or Satan who tempted Eve to make a bad choice and disobey God. All righty. And I think that's about it for tonight. Does anybody have any questions, or everybody got everything they need?
I got everything I need.
All right. All right. So what we're going to do is I'm going to stop recording in just a minute. But what do we like to do every week before we stop recording?
Miss Tanya, Lydia wants to tell you something.
Oh, what does Lydia need to tell me?
We forgot to do our memory verse.
No, we did. It's a new memory verse. It's the one that says, we didn't do the one we've done before. This one's a new one. It says, all have sinned and fall short of God's glory. It's a little bit short verse, but that's the one that kind of goes with the big disaster. So good job for paying attention though, Lydia. All righty. Okay, so if everybody is unmuted, I'm going to get ready to stop the recording. Get my little mouse down here where it goes. There it is. And I'm going to count to 3 and we'll say goodbye to the people who may be watching online. You ready? 1, 2, 3. Bye.
Bye.
Sweet. Bye.
Bye.